Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Hase, and I'm here today to talk to you about how to be a better teacher and share some tips and tricks with you. First off, I created a little test, kind of like a quiz thing for you to determine where you're at and like being the best teacher ever. If you haven't checked that out yet, go to blog.robotel.com and take this little quiz. And then after that, here we are in answering those kind of questions and finding out how you can improve in case you answered no to any of them. So what I want to talk about first is how important it is to be fluent and confident in the language and the subjects that you teach. I myself thought, being a native, I understood how to teach German. And then I was sitting there with my students and they were struggling with how to learn the adjective endings in German. So I could go on and on and on with like examples like that, but it is really important for you to know where your students might be struggling. And in order to do that, you have to master the language or the subject that you are teaching. Another idea of how you can become more confident and keep up with things is subscribing to newsletters that you like, reading blogs, posts that you like, maybe continuing your education. Going back to university, taking some like classes, maybe taking a class online, and then of course, professional development. Some professional development opportunities are brought to us by our districts. Others we can search for and get grants for ourselves. So keeping up with that, I think that's one of the major things in how you become a better teacher, by being confident, by really knowing what you're teaching and where your students might be struggling. Another one of my tips is know your students. I know it's sometimes we think we know our students, or we might think, oh, I don't really have time to get to know them. I have 5 classes of 40 students each, but it is really important to get to know them, learn something about their names, their backgrounds, their interests, their learning style, because only then can we really make an impact and connect with them. I here shared one of student questionnaires. Something simple, something maybe to relate to that can help us throughout our lessons. So if you're interested in getting a sample of the student questionnaire, feel free to email me. I'll gladly share that with you, or you can use this to create your own. Next, be passionate about the subject that you teach. I know it can be really hard sometimes to keep up that passion. We come straight from college, we do our teacher training, we think we're ready, and then we actually start teaching, and we often start struggling. Year after year it gets harder. There is administrative issues that we maybe don't agree with, struggles at the school, student behavior. If you see it in this picture, we have all kinds of things that we handle on a daily basis. Parental requests are one of the major issues that teachers report that they struggle with on a daily basis. And then the ever-changing policies in education, Common Core, not Common Core, what standards, what do I follow? It is kind of hard, but for me, I would say, first find out what you're really struggling with. Like, what is it that kind of like took away that passion of yours and the reason why you went into teaching? And then start digging a little bit deeper on how can I improve this? What can I do? How can I get help maybe in those areas? Because once you are passionate again, your students will feel it. They will be motivated. They will be part of it again. And that is super important. Next, be reachable for your students and give them a chance to connect with you. I know our days are really filled with prepping and grading and going here and helping out there and answering emails and parents and maybe colleagues that need our help. But if you truly want to be one of the best teachers, it's really important for you to have time for your students. I used to have like little prizes. Students could earn a lunch with me. And that sometimes just made their day. Or I went outside on the playground with them and just walked around, like listened to them, just to have something outside of the classroom to connect them. You could reserve, I don't know, 10 minutes at the end of a class to students sharing something. And this is not just something that elementary students will enjoy, being the student of the week or the one in focus, but even adult learners. When I taught at the university, my adult students were excited to bring in something from home and talk about themselves that they were passionate about. And then another idea here is to maybe have a what Miss or Mr. Ladila has to know about me or should know about me. I had a jar that said what Ms. Haza should know. And students could put notes in there anonymously, or they could sign their names if they wanted me to follow up with them. Sometimes it just felt good for them to get it off their chests. Like, be reachable, make a connection with your students, and you and your students will benefit from that. Number 5, ask for student feedback. This is one that sounds kind of scary and a lot of teachers avoid it. I myself was super, super nervous when I sent out my first student feedback survey. I was nervous because I knew I wasn't doing the best job. And so seeing that from my students really got me. But without that, I don't think I could have become one better teacher, not ever the best, but becoming a better teacher. So I really liked asking questions. What do you enjoy most in the class? What don't you enjoy? What were your favorite lessons? Is there anything you would like me to teach about in the future? If there was one thing you could change in my class, what would it be? What is something you would like me to try or us to try in class? And then also maybe getting some idea of how do you feel about the tests or quizzes that we do? Are they too easy, too hard? Ask some harder questions, ask what they don't like, because those are usually the things that you can improve on that then will make you a better teacher and give your students a better learning experience. Number 6, share ideas with colleagues and collaborate. I know we're not all lucky to have amazing colleagues, and maybe you don't even have a colleague in the building that teaches the same subject as you. Find your community, whether that is on social media, there's hashtags on Twitter, there is wonderful Facebook groups like Teach with Tech, or you find it. There is associations like the AATG for German teachers, and then the AATSP, I believe, for the Spanish teachers. So there's a whole lot of communities out there. So if you're not able to collaborate with someone in your building or in your district, reach out to others in other districts and find someone, bounce ideas off of, share work. The more people work together, the easier it will be, and you can bounce ideas off of one another and maybe even get some lessons that are already prepped, well thought out, and you can use them in your classroom. Then, are you aware of your students' strengths, weaknesses, progress? Tricky one. If you're not using any kind of electronics, I'm sure you are spending a lot of time on grading and creating grade books and calculating and averaging and all of that. I can only recommend saving some time, finding a good grade book, finding a good program. The one that I really like here is from Smart Class. It gives you not only an overview where your students are at, you can see what they have done, what they haven't done. You can see what you still have to grade here in yellow, because some of them are graded activities that I as a teacher have to grade. Everything that you see here in green was already graded. A lot of the activities for Smart Class are auto-graded, about 50% of them. So this gives you a great overview of each student individually, but it also gives you feedback as a teacher of how your students were doing. Let's say all the students across the board got less than 50% on one of these activities. I'm looking at A1439 right now, and from the students that I have received feedback from, it doesn't look so well. So that gives me feedback on, hey, this is an activity or this is an exercise that my students were really struggling with. Maybe I should go over that. It also tells me maybe I didn't teach this well enough. I'm not perfect, and what I taught maybe the group before might have worked, and with this group, I have to find a different angle. So having an overview like this kind of grade report is super helpful for you, for your students, to share with parents when they have questions about their child's progress. So I can only recommend this, or if you find a different one, great, just find something that works for you. And then lastly, do you personalize learning? Personalizing learning is very, very important. However, we barely have time for that in our daily stressful, fully packed days that we already have. I like using Smart Class, again, because it allows me to personalize learning. I can assign activities, put them in different folders, and just assign them to some of the students that I have. Let's say, hey, I have a folder for group A. So group A knows to work on these activities. I have a folder for group B. I have a folder for group C. They can work on these while I work with a student individually or a small group of students. They can work on these when they're at home or in the classroom. Like, I can make sure that my students, based on the grade report that I get, can redo activities, can work on maybe a couple of more different concepts and so forth. So personalizing learning is one of the hardest things for us teachers to do, but with the help of good technology, it is definitely possible. And then lastly, if you want to know more about this, please go to our blog.robotel.com and feel free to follow us on social media, check out our YouTube channel. If you want any copies of the student questionnaires that I was mentioning, feel free to email me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this and have a good rest of your day.